Hello and welcome to the Irn-Cru, the American football podcast made in Scotland from NFL lovers. This is the preview crew, part 2, and I'm your host, Ross Stirling, for this evening. I do not know what people have done to deserve this, but I've been asked to host tonight. So I'm going to be assisted and looking at the later slate of Sunday's games as well as Monday Night Football. And to join me, I've got one of the finest crew members who incidentally did ding me at first at the crew's watch-along party because he was too engrossed in the Liverpool Arsenal game. And I'm joined by our very own Bucks fan, Ross. How are we doing, Ross?
I'm good. I can't believe they've allowed me and you to run one. Watch-along was good, man.
It's all good, man, all good. So we've got a wee bit of Ross squared. So some people might not know that Ross is my Christian name. My Sunday name, as my mum would say. So we've got Ross squared tonight looking at the games. Obviously, we will get to it later on, but our two teams are facing off this weekend, so that'll be fun and games on Monday night, and I dare say there'll be some messages bouncing back and forth, and I dare say there'll be some questionable refereeing calls that will come up as well. Since
almost certainly.
So we're going to crack on because we have got a 45-minute window to crack on with these games, and we are going to kick off. And actually, for the last time I was hosting, I did make a boo-boo and forgot about this team, so I thought it's only fair for our very own Bears fan, Grant, to keep him sweet and kick off with the Chicago Bears at the Arizona Cardinals. So Chicago Bears coming off of their heartbreaking Hail Mary loss to the Washington Commanders. Travel to Arizona to try and bounce back a little bit. Two number one pick quarterbacks. We'll get Caleb Williams facing off against Kyler Murray in what should be an exciting game. Ross, you get anything you particularly think are fancy in this game? I know I've got my thoughts.
I'm sure it maybe was mentioned earlier in the week or in part 1. But I've no stopped watching that Jaden Daniels Hail Mary. It was unbelievable. It was literally goosebumps every time I watched it. The commentary, everything's perfect in it. So I think the Bears will be kind of looking to bounce back here. But Cardinals have a great team this year. They seem to be playing very good. Although I will say it is double XP on Call of Duty Black Ops 6 this weekend. So I think Kyler's mind might be elsewhere. And I think if I was going to take any team that I think is going to have a better, second half of the season, I think it probably is the Bears. So looking at it in the balance, I don't really think Arizona have got kind of the depth. They've got Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously in terms of wide receivers, but I don't think they've maybe get the weapons that the Bears have got.
For me, I think it's interesting. Obviously, the Bears are 4-3 just now. Cards are sitting top of their division, probably surprising most people at 4-4. 2-2 at home for the Cards as well. But interestingly enough, the Bears are 0-3 away from home. Caleb Williams is still to break that donut away from home. So I think he's obviously enjoying his home comforts a lot more. But the Bears' defence, outside of that Hail Mary last week where Tyreek Stevenson seemed more interesting in talking shit to the crowd than he was actually doing, in the words of Bill Belichick, do your job. So, as I say, for me, I do like the Bears' defence. Their defence is elite, and I think it's going to be interesting to see Kyler going against that defence. I think, if I remember right from last week, that was his first ever back-to-back wins that he's ever put together. So, wow. He is putting together, he's as a fantasy owner of Kyler Murray, I picked him up a wee bit later, so I've been enjoying for the most part this season he's having. He's not been as elite as we've seen Murray, but he has been quietly good, and he seems to be developing that Marvin Harrison Jr. relationship. I think one of the, it's hard to say disappointing weapons for them, but he was certainly picked high in a fantasy perspective as Trey McBride. I think he's somebody that you would like to see get in the end zone because last season he seemed to have an elite relationship with Murray. So I think still kind of waiting for him to kind of break out this season as well. And I think Marvin Harrison's obviously got that depth, that get downfield kind of speed that he's been showing, and he's got a couple of breakaway touchdowns as well. I think it'd be good if we could see that kind of short-term immediate game maybe picking up for the Cardinals. in terms of Trey McBride. And the two running backs for the two teams have, again, not to keep kind of going back to fantasy, but if you are a fantasy owner of these two guys have been probably stalwarts of your team and hitting those double-digit points week in, week out. And James Connery seems to be so reliable when he's on the field. Just seems to be breaking through in those contacts. And DeAndre Swift is, I think, weeks 1 and 2, he was really poor to the extent where I think some Bears fans were maybe wondering what they'd actually signed. And he really broke out. You've been impressed with DeAndre Swift so far?
I've always thought DeAndre Swift for a couple of seasons, but I think he's a very solid running back. Didn't get into the he did not get into the season well. Plus, a couple of games, I remember seeing on Twitter a lot of stuff, a lot of comments saying big mistake. Obviously, Caleb Williams didn't perform at the start of the season quite to the standard. So then they went, well, he's brought in this running back one, and he's not gaining you any yards. He's not getting what he needs. He's not pulling you up the field or pushing you up the field. And it is the exact same with Caleb Williams, but obviously it clicked now for offense. As you said, you mentioned Trey McBride there. I like Trey McBride. I don't necessarily think he's in that kind of top bracket of kind of other players in the league, but I think he does have a good relationship with Kyler. You've seen that last season. And I don't know, this is one of the games, no matter what the score is, it's believable. It doesn't matter. See if Cardinals going to blow them away, you go, well, Caleb Williams can win away from home. Okay, if the Bears win, you go, Caleb Williams got off to a good start. It's the Cardinals been just kind of like everyone else in their division, pretty just under 500 or 500. Do you know what I mean? I think that's one of the games of the weekend where it could be a nice addition to Red Zone, but you might not even notice it's not there if the game wasn't being played.
It could kind of echo quite a lot of the Commanders Bears game last week for me. So I totally agree with what you're saying there. Where it was really not noticeable in Red Zone until probably the fourth quarter, where both teams really started to kind of pick up. You had a big breakaway touchdown for DeAndre Swift. You obviously had the unbelievable play for Jaden Daniels at the end as well. So I think you could probably see similarities in that because you've got Kyler Murray, who is known as being that mobile quarterback as well. And the Bears really seem to keep Daniels in check for a massive portion of that game, restricted him to field goals for the biggest portion as well. So I think the kicking game could be really important. Cairo Sant and Stu will be delighted to hear me say that as well. Cairo Santos, again, former chief, he has been so steady for the Bears, so reliable. Again, an excellent pick-up when he got over his injuries for the Bears. And again, the Cardinals kicker this year as well, he's been excellent for them as well. Coming in clutch situations, couple of game winners for them. It's one I do really think it's a coin flip game. I really do. I'm looking at some of the kind of guys on the injury report. So you've got Montez Sweat. He's questionable. So again, he's a massive piece of that defense for the Bears. You've got Jaquan Brisker as well, the safety. He's out. So again, the secondary, because I've got another cornerback, Kyler Gordon, who's questionable as well. So it's possible there could be some holes maybe for the Bears side. Cardinals side, again, no one massively notable that I'm seeing there. You've obviously got Chop Robinson, who they picked up in the draft, who we've not seen. He's just come off IR for them as well. So he's been ruled out, so they're obviously going to take their time with him. But once they kind of, I think they really need to kind of get at Caleb, the Arizona Cardinals, for that, to try and get him off his spot, if you like, and force him to kind of get into those off-script plays that he used to do in college. And if you can do that for him, we know Caleb's capable of some absolute magic, but if you can get him into those off-script plays, then maybe you can force him into some of those mistakes as well. But I think the running games are going to be key for both teams. It's going to be who's going to step up. I mean, sorry
to jump in. It's just as well though. Kyler, as far as I'm aware, isn't he really banged up for injuries? Jaden Daniels has been banged up, and he was banged up last week getting into the game. He probably wasn't as mobile. I can't say I watched a lot of it because we had the Red Zone watch along, and I was a bit focused in other games. But and obviously, as you say, there wasn't really much shown too much comparatively to other games. But I think Kyler's going to be much more of a threat to that Bears defense than Jaden Daniels was last week. And I think that was just injury.
I think when Kyler gets out of the pocket, he's just such a weapon. You've seen it at least twice I can think of. He's broke off 40-plus yard touchdowns, and it's literally, I'm trying to think who it was against, but he got by that 10-yard spot, and you seen him saying he knew he was away as soon as he got that 5-10 yards, and knew nobody was catching him. And I think he done it. I want to say the Packers, actually. I think it was maybe the Packers. He just burst away. And then I think a week later, maybe against the Chargers, I think he done the same thing. And it was literally got outside that 5-10 yard spot behind the line of scrimmage. And he knew he was away. He just knew there's nobody catching him. He's just so quick and so elusive. But yeah, I think it's got, as you said earlier, it's definitely got a potential game. So it'll be one that's floating around the background. Again, with it being the later window, quite good because you probably see a bit more of it as well, because the later window never ever seems to be as busy on this one. So we're going to nail our going to ask you for your prediction on this one, see where we are. So we've got Chicago, as I said, 4-3, sitting bottom of their division, surprisingly enough, a game behind Minnesota, and Cardinals, who we will come on to their division in a little bit, but they've got a chance to maybe open up a little gap with the 49ers being on bye week as well. So what do you think? Who are you going for?
Probably, I'd take just with the weapons I've got, I'll go with a Bears win in Arizona. It's, as you say, flip a coin. I'm no. I would like a Bears win as well, because I can meet sort of Seahawks fans, and I want to see them with a chance of winning that division when nobody gave them it, and I don't want the Cardinals being ahead.
Yeah, no, fair dues. I think I'm going to go with the home comforts in this one. I'm going to give Arizona the win on this one. Again, no bias because of my Kyler fantasy owner, but I just think, as you mentioned there as well, Jaden Daniels probably less mobile with the ribs. Can the Bears defense keep Kyler quiet? I'm going to go for him to be the standout on this one. So moving on to game that's kicking off at the same time, so probably one that maybe not as exciting based on looking at the two teams' records. We've got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Philadelphia Eagles. So Jags 2-6 travelling into the link, and they're 0-4 away from home as well, including their trip to London, with the Eagles 5-2. Surprisingly, they've dropped a game at home, so they're 2-1 at home. Normally they are pretty steady at home as well. So again, I'll come to you first on this one before I can provide my thoughts. Ross, what's your takes on this one?
It's kind of it's the game that's probably going to decide Jacksonville's season. We'll maybe talk about that a bit more after we've talked about all the games, kind of who's needing a win the most, but it looks like it's kind of the game. And the thing is, Eagles might be 5-2, but I still maintain that Sirianni is probably one of the three coaches in the league that's on the cusp of getting sacked, especially with a positive record. So I think the Eagles need a win, probably just slightly less than the Jacksonville Jaguars need it. And I look at the injury reports, and I go, Gabe Davis is questionable. Tank Bigsby's questionable, who's been a big weapon. Now their dates come back are all Sunday, so they should be. But one bad fall, one bad crash into a teammate, or a freak strain. You know what I mean? They're back out. ETN just not been at the level this season. He's questionable. Brian Thomas Jr., who I know a couple of Jags fans, they say he's a stud. But if they're all questionable, I just look at offense and I go, Trevor Lawrence is just going to be thrown to mid-day and trying to rush it and then getting dragged in. It's going to be, I think the Jags have allowed 18 sacks. Their offensive line have allowed 18 sacks this season, which is not quite the most in the league, but it's up probably in the top 5 or 6 teams. Yeah. And the Eagles are one of the best teams when it comes to actually getting sacks. So they're certainly in the top kind of 10. So I look at that and I go, I think it's a mismatch, but I think, to be fair, I think every game for the Jags this season has been a bit of a mismatch. The only time, and I just think when you're away in London for 3 weeks, it's too long. I don't think it's sustainable. And I think Jags fans are either going to come to the realisation they're going to be a tourist franchise, and it's just going to be there to be, we're taking the NFL around the world. Or they're going to get moved out of Jacksonville and the Jags fans are going to have to scatter to, up at Atlanta or move down towards Tampa and kind of Miami or wherever. They'll find a new team somewhere, but it doesn't look good for me. I'm not the biggest fan of the Eagles, and I would say as well, like you look at Jalen Hurts' production, he's got pretty much the same passing yards as Patrick Mahomes. And you go, Patrick Mahomes is having a terrible season, or he's not having a good season. But you look at Jalen Hurts and you go, but his rushing's down, his yards for rushing and rushing touchdowns are down comparatively for the last few years. So Jalen's actually probably not over the season that people think he's having. That kind of reflects on the mood in the camp of the Eagles, Sirianni, Nitmit fans and Chuckmit fans. The Eagles are very lucky to have Saquon Barkley and to have got him. Because without him, they could have been looking at a season like the Jags.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Saquon's been the obvious standout for the Eagles this year. He has been unbelievable for them. Even I think I've seen like Nick Sirianni talking to the team where they were showing a clip of the Saquon hit against the Giants, where I think it was third down. He maybe needed to say something like 8 yards, but there was a massive hit 2 weeks ago, and he just lowered the shoulder and he took that Giants defender's soul. Didn't get the first down, but it completely set the tone for that week for them, and he just seems so willing. He's bought into. I actually had a bit for Kev, who was actually meant to join us tonight, about sniffing the Nick Sirianni perfume, I think it was. He was talking about victories like perfume. You sniff it, you don't drink it, and all this kind of stuff. He's always good for a kind of quote, but the team seems to be kind of buying along with that. And nobody seems to epitomise it more than Saquon Barkley. He is putting his body on the line. He is running through people. He is having an absolutely elite season. From a running back's perspective, and it's probably took the pressure off Jalen Hurts a lot. And I don't think Jalen Hurts is in the elite category as yet. Maybe he will get there, but I don't know. But I don't think it's any coincidence that Jalen Hurts' game has improved when Brown's come back, AJ Brown.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
He's massive for them. Him missing at the start of the season coincided with a couple of their losses. But him coming back, he has been unbelievable for them. He's just such a big body receiver. He bullies people at the road. I don't think it's a coincidence that they seem to have seen an uptick.
Did you see the clip of Saquon on the touchline a couple of weeks ago, and they threw it to AJ like right down the field, maybe 50-60 yarder, kind of something to that effect. AJ goes into Saquon, goes nuts on the sideline, and he sprints onto the field, and the caption was like, "Oh, he's no used to having like good teammates," and he was like losing his mind, and he was like, "You're that dog." I was like, "That's so good." Do you know what? And Bartley's probably having a great time. This season, and just on the Giants for letting him go. Absolutely, like they could have done better to keep him by getting a decent quarterback. But I don't love the Eagles. Don't really love the Eagles fans, head coach. Not a big fan of the players. But I was just double checking. 20 sacks they've dished out this season, so they're averaging a couple a game. So I would be very worried if you're a Jags fan, because I think. And I know, I guess I say a couple of Jags fans, and they've all said to me the same things. We've got no O-line. They can't protect the QB, and that's why they can't. Until Tank Bigsby in the last, since kind of maybe week 7, or let's say week 6, he started showing a bit more promise in that, but they also kind of rushed the ball, and that's the problem. If you kind of rush the ball and protect the QB, you're never going to win a game.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, his name's so apt for the position, Tank, and I know we've joked about it a couple of times. The fact that he's a running back is absolutely superb. Had his issues last season with keeping a hold of the ball, so we'd seen a lot more. I think there was an expectation he was going to take the load off of Travis Etienne a bit, who's probably a more slight running back, better known at Clemson, I think, for catching out the backfield with Trevor Lawrence as well, which we have seen in Jacksonville, but Tank Bigsby has really stepped up for that offense this season, He seems to be, I mean, in London, I think he got 2 touchdowns in the second game. He was by far and away the leader on that second game for them, and he has really stepped up for them. I think you've kind of had to nail. Sorry, on you go, Ross.
No, I was just going to say that it's spot on. Like, and the thing is, I think you can't nowadays in the NFL. You can't just have one running back. You need to have 2, and you have to have somebody that is a Tank Bigsby, is a Bucky Irvin, can jump cut, can find the gaps, and also just smash through. And you need somebody like ETN who stick him on a jet sweep, stick him on kind of cut out, like, you know, an outsider run, and less like you're going for 3 yards through the middle. Like, that's what Bigsby's great at. And I just think he's really proven himself this season. He's one of the few kind of outside, because I think the receivers at Jacksonville are fantastic. I think if you gave Lamar Jackson the receivers, the Ravens would probably do just as well. Evan Ingram, Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas Jr. I'm like, that's a good set of wide receivers, isn't it? Like that, there's some very good players there. So I think the problems come from the O-line mainly, and obviously maybe a bit more than a bit of game management for Doug Peterson.
I do think he's one of the ones that saw definitely on a shaky reel. Again, when they lost the first game in London, I think a lot of people were kind of thinking if he lost the second game, he wouldn't have allowed back the plane type thing. So I think he's definitely on the hot seat, as they say. I do think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about the injuries and the weapons certainly piling up. Christian Kirk obviously is going to be a massive loss. They paid him last year. Brian Thomas, I thought he was out for 2 to 4 weeks, it was saying earlier in the week, but I know it says questionable just now. I mean, if he doesn't go, you're literally, Gabe Davis is your wide receiver one. Probably actually Evan Ingram's Trevor Lawrence's wide receiver one since he's been back. He's been excellent when he's been fit for the Jags, but again, if you've no weapons, what against that kind of pass rush that the Eagles are going to bring with a O-line that has given up that amount of sacks, I don't see how the Jags win this one. I think you're probably looking at ETN lining up a lot in the receiver position. They might go with Bigsby and ETN on the field quite a lot as well. Try and utilise each one's skill sets to try and get the chains moving. But I think this is going to be a rough day at the office for the Jags.
I mean, I've watched Baker get sacked 7 times by Aiden Hutchinson in a game this season. Which is a disgusting stat. I think we're going to see the same here. If I look at the injury report for the Eagles, which I have right in front of me, Darius Slay, Albert Okwuegbunam, I can't say his name, but you know exactly who I mean, who's the tight end, and then you can have Byron Young and your Jordan Mailata. They've still got plenty there. Blankenship, Quinion Mitchell, boys with plenty of sacks. I mean, Nolan Smith's got 2.5 sacks this season. I think he is kind of second or third for it. You've got Jalen Carter's got 3 sacks, and I think Eagles will. I think, as you say, Doug Peterson will probably be away after this.
Yeah, I think it's the draft picks they've picked up as well. Like Cooper DeJean last week, massive play on Jamar Chase at 4th and 1. He tracked the motion the whole way, in behind the linebackers. Great technique, make sure he didn't block the linebacker's view on to see what Joe Burrow was doing, and then they tried a wide receiver screen, and Cooper DeJean just nailed Jamar Chase with one of the elite wide receivers. This is a rookie coming out of Iowa State. Obviously picked up higher in the draft, but he's stepped up big time for that secondary.
He was one of the boys I had kind of, when we had looked at that kind of at the draft after the season last season, I thought he'll go just before us. I thought there was a chance, but if he hadn't, I would have thought maybe Tampa would have taken him, because I think we had 26th pick, and I don't know where the Eagles were, but they were only maybe about 4 or 5 spaces behind us, and he was somebody I was kind of want to keep an eye on. So, he's been as a rookie, it's always good when somebody's coming in and kind of making big plays like that.
Yeah, so no surprise on this one then. Both of us going for the Eagles then.
Yeah, I'll say Eagles by about. They might use it as a chance to get a bit of confidence. Eagles by about 14.
Aye, I can see the starters getting pulled in this one in the fourth quarter.
Maybe before.
Aye, true. So moving on then to our last of the 9:05 games, possibly the game of the later window. And I know we mentioned off here you were looking forward to this one. We have the Lions travelling up to a historic Lambeau Field in a divisional game to face the Green Bay Packers. So Detroit, both teams sitting atop the division. The Detroit one game ahead at 6-1, 3-0 away from home. So they haven't been. 9:25 kickoff. This is, but they're 3-0 away from home. They're not afraid of their away comforts. This one, and the Green Bay Packers 6-2 with 3-1 at home. So I'm going to come to you to kick this one off, Ross, as well, because again we can't go to anybody else. Really, it's going to be me or you.
I know. Unless you want to kick it off, unless you've got anything that you like, maybe is it something you think is the narrative coming into this game? Like, what is the narrative? Because is it divisional? Is it the chance for Green Bay to, like, I don't know what I don't know what to expect into this, because it should be Goff and Love going through 350 yards each, but the defenses are solid. It should be a 27-29 game, 27-30 game, something like that.
Yeah, I think for me that is really the narrative. It is the quarterbacks. Goff, okay, they played Tennessee last week. He didn't need to do anything. It was actually somebody I looked at as a sneaky MVP candidate, because
nothing sneaky about it.
Do you know what it was? It was the fact he was playing a lot of his games in a dome, and he seems to really excel when he's in a dome. Obviously, Lambeau Field, he's outside. I think weather could have a factor in this one from his perspective.
Interesting.
But again, that then leads you on to the running game for the Detroit Lions, which is Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And we've already spoke about having that tandem. I think these two, if you look across the league, you are looking at, for me, probably the best tandem in the league. In fact, I'd actually take probably out it. You've got David Montgomery, who's just total smash mouth. He will run you over, get those hard yards. You've then got Jahmyr Gibbs, who has the breakaway speed if he gets outside. He housed one for 70 yards last week, which was an unbelievable play for him as well. On the flip side, you've then got Jordan Love at quarterback. He says he's fit. He doesn't have any qualms about not training this week before going into a game. In his interview, he said it's no ideal. But again, it's the groin. When you're looking at a quarterback, you're stepping into throws, you're trying to evade that pressure. It could easily go so quickly again, and then the Packers are relying on that defence and Malik Willis probably, which I think if you're the Lions and you see Malik Willis coming in, I think they'll, even without Aiden Hutchinson, I think that's when they'd start to feast. For me, so I really do think it's going to be about the quarterbacks. How does Goff handle the weather perspective and being outdoors, and as how fit is Jordan Love for me?
It's I really you've mentioned about the dome there, and that's kind of got me thinking, and like, but one of the things I think it will be the Lions' downfall, whether they get to the Super Bowl, whether they get the championship game, whatever they end this season. I think passion is wonderful, but Dan Campbell can be too passionate. He's too aggressive. And this is a game that can you see this game being in the last minute, in the last 30 seconds, and either a head coach mistake, a call mistake from coaching, an offensive coordinator, something could be the reason a team loses this, or it could be the reason a team wins it. But I've said it all season. I think passion and kind of intensity is going to cost Detroit at some point, and this looks like it could be a game that it could, because Green Bay aren't any pushovers. I don't particularly think Jordan Love is, for how much he's paid, is that good in the league. I don't think he is. I think there's another 5 or 6 quarterbacks easily above him, for me, in my opinion, and Jared Goff's probably one of them, how I like my game to be. I like a lot of slinging the ball and having two solid running backs, like you say, Gibbs and Montgomery. I'm so glad it's an 9:25 game. I'm so glad it's going to be on Sky. My Virgin Media guys coming tomorrow to fit my new box. Sunday night, lovely. I'm off Monday. I'm going to be watching that with a nice glass of red wine, and I'm just hoping for a really great game.
Yeah, again, it is probably going to be the one. I think even Keith, when we were having a chat before we kind of come on, was saying it's probably one that he'll start with. There's only 4 games in the later slate, so we've already covered 2 of them. You've got the Rams Seahawks at 9:25 as well. This is easily going to be one that I think I'm definitely with Keith. I'm going to start with this one. Just I want to watch all of this game. I want to see what's happening with the running backs. I want to see what the quarterbacks are doing. You mentioned the defences as well. These are 2 defences that have really stepped up this year. I've probably been quite down on the Lions secondary in some of your WhatsApp chats. I thought that's where you could get at the Lions, but I think it was the Cowboys game I was talking about it, where I was saying you could get at the Lions secondary, but they stepped up big time in there. Branch coming up with a big pick in the Cowboys game, which pretty much kind of sealed the deal for them, I think, as well. But on the flip side, you've got Jair Alexander as well, and you've got Xavier McKinney, who's had one of his best seasons for interceptions.
Jair is questionable. He is scheduled to return, obviously being a later kickoff, it might give him that couple of extra hours, whatever. He needs injections, whatever he needs to get. But again, there's a potential there, the potential Jair Alexander. So, he's a great player. But like also, on the flip side, we know Aiden Hutchinson for what's this week, 3 or 4 since he's been at.
Yeah.
So I'm just like.
Cowboys game he went down, so he missed Minnesota and he's missed Tennessee.
He was obviously, I'm not saying he was carrying the Lions in the defense, but he was a massive part of that. And it's going to be the longer the season goes on, you're going to see the plays they don't make, the defense, the stops and sacks they don't get. The running backs they don't block, they end up in a first down that lead to 3 points, 6 points, 7 points, whatever. So I think Green Bay should look at this kind of how I looked at it as a Bucs fan, and when we played them week 2, it was a completely free hit. We were so injured. We were incredibly injured that week, so badly. Was it week 3? No, it was week 2. I'm sure. And I take it as a free hit for Green Bay. Jordan Love needs to go and make big plays, show why he's getting paid that money. And the Lions, I think, kind of. As you're saying, Goff needs to put his name right in that ballot for MVP. But to be honest, for me, he's up there already. I think he's up there already. I think with his yards this season, he's got just under 1,700 yards. That's more than Mahomes, more than Jalen Hurts. It's still 500, 600 less than Baker Mayfield, and you still get 8 less touchdowns than the true MVP Baker Mayfield. But with a Lions record 6-1, we can only dream of having a record like 6-1.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Jared Goff is more than in that race for MVP just now. So I think he's definitely in that conversation with the kind of top QBs of the league for that. So yeah, I think this is going to be a great game to watch. Coming to that time, so I'm going to ask you to nail your flag to the mast, being a Bucs fan here, and say where are you going? Who's coming out of Lambeau with a victory?
I would like it to be Green Bay, but I think it's going to be the Lions. But as I say, I'm hoping it's going to be an over.
Oh, we lost Ross.
So 1 field goal, maybe. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you back.
Sorry, I don't know what I don't know what I'd said. I don't know what you've heard, but I'm saying I'd hope I'd game separated by a walk-off field goal.
Yeah, we got the walk-off field goal. So
I'd like a walk-off field goal.
Well, that's the thing. Green Bay seem to have found a kicker as well now in Brandon McManus. He's the last 2 games, I think he's actually won the games for them against Jacksonville and Houston. So he's got those walk-off touchdowns after years of disappointment for the Green Bay kicking club. So I think I tend to agree with you on this one. I think from a divisional perspective and to keep it tight going forward, I would like to see Green Bay win. Just it's that groin injury for Jordan Love in the running game for Detroit that's making me go. I think the Lions are going to steal this one and go another game ahead of the Packers on this front. I'm going to go for the Lions as well, I think.
Apart from maybe I shouldn't go off piece because I know what time, but apart from obviously we're the only team to beat them, the Bucks, is there a defense in football, excluding Tampa, that can stop that run game?
Aye.
Do you think there is one out there?
I think the Chiefs.
I knew you were going to say that.
Our run defense has been excellent this year.
Just because we do something, you think, oh well, Chiefs can do it as well.
I think if watching the Chiefs games, obviously, I think, and again we'll kind of touch on the Chiefs. Tight end seems to be where we've been kind of got at. So I think the running game we've been quite consistent in stopping the run game a lot of the times. So yeah, I think the Chiefs. I think Ross is frozen for me again. So let's move on, and hopefully Ross comes back on with us. Going to move on to the next 9:25 game, and that is the Los Angeles Rams travelling up to Lumen Field and facing the Seattle Seahawks. So another divisional game for a late slate on this one. And again, the Rams own 3 away from home, 3-4 overall. Seahawks 4-4.
Oh, there we go. I was trying to go on my phone there because I don't know what happened. I cut it.
So just moved on to the Rams and Seahawks. So both went close game with the Lions and Packers, and we'll move on to the Rams travelling up to Lumen Field. So again, divisional game here. So Los Angeles 1 game back in the division. It's probably one of the tighter divisions in the league. Again, probably unexpectedly. I think a lot of people thought the 49ers had run away with this one, but we're sitting with Arizona, San Francisco and Seattle all on 4-4. The Rams 3-4. Again, Rams, similar problems to the Bears. They've no one away from home as yet. And I think we all know how difficult a place to go Lumen Field is. Seattle, though, surprisingly, only 2-3 at home on this one. How do you see this one going then, Ross?
Divisional, so it means obviously anything can really happen. But I think the thing that's kind of impressed me is I really thought the Rams a couple of weeks ago when they had so many injuries, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I thought their season's over. They should just tank. And they're sitting with they've already, they're a game behind. They're a game behind Seattle and Arizona. You know what I mean? I'm looking at that and I go, everything's sort of play for. The NFC West is the new South.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, that division's just everyone's kind of fighting to be about 500. In terms of this specifically, I look at DK Metcalf, he's out. Ernest Jones questionable for Sunday. Cam Young, Noah Fant, both out. Total injuries, you can't overlook the Rams. Obviously, Novin Puka Nakua, who questionable, but I would say probably unlikely. I think you've got I think Gino's probably he's the pass leader this year in the league in terms of attempts. I think he's ahead of Baker. Baker's second, I'm sure, to Gino. He will sling it down the field, but the problem is, will the Rams get the interceptions or will they force the turnovers by incomplete pass or fumbles? I don't know. I think when the Seahawks are at home, they have a tendency to kind of maybe let other teams into it. I think they were playing the Giants a few weeks back, and it went to overtime, and it ended up being a field goal to win it. So I don't really know how to call this one. It's similar to the Cardinals game for me. It could be a bit of dead rubber in terms of not that it doesn't mean it, but it could just be one of the games where you you've got the highlights reel wouldn't need to be that long.
Yeah.
A couple of big plays, a wee bit of Gino magic, coming out the pocket, getting a valuable first down, taking time off the clock near the end of the game. That's maybe all you need. But with decaf out, that's a big one for them. I'm looking for Jackson Smith and Jigba to step up. I think he's got yards this season. He's got a lot of targets and receptions. Touchdowns are just not there, and they need to be. They need to improve, because you can be that guy to get your team down the field, but if you're not the guy to finish the play, you're not going to be remembered. At the end of the day, you're not going to get the contract because you've not got the stats to back it up.
Aye, no, I think Jackson Smith and Jig was probably been the one that's, based on what he was doing at Ohio State, I think he's probably been slightly disappointing, especially last year. This year he's been better. I think you have seen a bit more of him this year, probably to do with the change of offensive coordinator, bringing in the guy from Washington State who had the likes of Roma Doomsday playing for him last year and had some elite wide receiving weapons in college and really knew how to utilise them. I think for me, this one probably similar to a bit of similarities to the Arizona Cardinals Bears game for me. I think the running backs are really going to be key. I think Ken Walker is sneakily putting together an excellent season for the Seahawks, especially
and receiving as well. He's such a great player, and the thing is, like he needs to be getting those big yards. Zach Charbonnet as well to push them down the field. Both their running backs can slot out to be receivers, and I think that's what makes Seattle's offense so dangerous, because they do have so many plays things they could run to surprise the opposition, but I don't think they're quite doing it this season. Maybe they need to next season with a new head coach, but I would like to see it click a wee bit sooner.
Yeah, I definitely. That's exactly what I was going to say with Ken Walker. I think he's added that receiving game into his weaponry, where they had. I mean, the Seahawks drafted Charbonnet 2 seasons ago now. Well, this is Charbonnet's second season. They drafted him essentially with the view of him being the out the back running back to get into the passing game. But Ken Walker's really stepped up. Injuries probably hampered him a bit more last season than they have this year, and you've seen that receiving game really come to the front for him. And as you say, it's just added that extra dimension. Metcalf being out's massive for them. I don't think you can take that away. He's, again, before the injury, he was having a great season as well. So I think they'll be desperate for the 17th of November. So still got another, 2-3 games out? So potentially, definitely 2 games out, potentially a third. They're expecting him back on the 17th of November. So they'll be desperate to get him back, so as it gives them that extra weight. And Tyler Lockett is just so reliable for them. Mm-hmm. He picks up the yards. He knows how not to take the hits as well. On the Rams side, obviously Puka Nacua come back last week and it was as if he'd never been away. Him and Cooper Kupp, they can both do the same role. They can both do those jet sweeps out the back. They can do those slot receiver roles. They can go downfield and give Matt Stafford, again, that additional weight downfield to get the chains moving for them. Mm-hmm. I think the concerning thing for the Rams is the fact that Nacua showed up again on the injury report this week, and it was the same knee that he's had issues with. They have said that it was precautionary on that front, so I think he is expected to play. But obviously, Nacua being out would be a massive issue for the Rams as well, especially going away from home to a divisional rival on that front. So I think it is a coin flip game, like you said as well on that one. Let's get moving on, because we want to get to the game that our teams are playing in. So, put cards on the table this time. Where are you going, Rams or Seahawks?
Seahawks win the down by 14, come back and win it, and be typical Seattle, just never play a normal game, mental stuff. I just think Seahawks will win it, but I think it will never be straightforward. I don't see it.
Yeah. I think Seahawks like to give their fans a bit more grey hairs. Exactly. As you said, they don't do anything easy. You've seen the Giants coming into Lumen Field and the freak field goal block return for a touchdown to end the game. Absolutely crazy scenes on that one. So I do like my home comforts. I think it does play a factor in this one. The Irn-Cru injury does slightly concern me, so I'm going to go with the Seahawks squeaking out a win on this one as well. Yeah, right. Let's get moving on then. We'll get on to Sunday night football. We have the Indianapolis Colts travelling to the Minnesota Vikings. So Colts 4-4, 1-3 away. Obviously, big moves made by the Colts this week as they travel up to Minnesota. They had to, after the tap out, they've brought in Joe Flacco to step in for the rest of the season for Anthony Richardson. Travel up to Minnesota. US Bank Stadium, not an easy place to go. GMFB's very own Jane Erdahl has blown the Gala horn for them. She's the guest Gala horn person for this weekend. Take what you want out of horns and blowing. Minnesota Vikings, good at home, 3-1, and they're 5-2 in the division. So a game back for Green Bay. They've obviously had their bye week. Green Bay's is coming this week. What do we think about this one? Where are we going?
But Joe Flacco, I think everyone's kind of not again Anthony Richardson, but like Joe Flacco's loved, man. Joe Flacco's what, 40, 39, 40?
39, I think.
39, it's in sort of age. It's just I don't know. For me, I love seeing a team that are sitting at 500 and going to a divisional rival who kind of started the season so powerfully. I'd like to see them put in a shift. I don't really think they've got the weapons. I like Pittman Jr. I like kind of Jonathan Taylor's obviously back from injury. Big fan of him in terms of you cut the season back. He was the best running back in the league probably, or if not one of the top two. But I just don't think they've got enough. I can't really see the Colts. There shouldn't be too much trouble for the Vikings. The Vikings have been so dominant this season. Even in the games they've not won. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. They've not done too easily. Like 31-29 v the Lions. You know, no shame losing to the Lions. Against the Rams, shouldn't really be happening. Should have beat the Rams. But, you know, I think once you've lost two in a row, you need to stop that rot. The Vikings know they've got Justin Jefferson and, you know, if not one of the best wide receivers in the league, if not the best, especially on those long receptions. So you give Darnold time, he's going to find them 40, 50 yards in the field, and then Jefferson after the catch, just that's where he makes his money as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's pretty clear cut. I think it'll be Vikings start. If Vikings don't start with the ball, they'll stop the Colts pretty quick. Vikings go down the field, points in the board. Colts will be chasing, and then there'll be a turnover, an interception, whatever it is, and the Vikings will put a bit of space, and it'll be, you know, I don't think it's going to be vintage Sunday night football, but then it never is because it's usually the Jets on bloody prime time, so it's never great.
I think for me, this one, the big concern I've got for Minnesota is Christian Darrisaw going out. Seen it against, was it the Rams the last game? I think that's when that game really turned. As soon as he went out, the Rams were then able to get after Sam Darnold, causing him issues. I think he's a massive loss for them. Both teams are actually coming off a loss as well. Obviously, the Colts a little bit tighter playing Houston, but I think for this one, obviously you mentioned the kind of offensive weapons for the Colts. I think Pierce, Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs get a massive uptick when Joe Flacco steps in. I think those guys, they just seem to step up their game, probably because the targets are more accurate. I mean, that's obviously one of Anthony Richardson's issues this year, has been his accuracy. He's either hitting that deep 40, 50-yard bomb, or he's missing these guys by 5-10 yards. Whereas Joe Flacco really is reliable, consistent. We've seen it with the Browns last year, seen it when he was at the Ravens, when he won the Super Bowl. Obviously, he's going to get those receivers. He knows where they're going to be. He's going to hit them. I think this is. I mentioned to Smudger. I think the Vikings' next 3 weeks are going to define their season, and I think this is going to be one of the 3 weeks where I think it probably lets them down. So I think this is the one. I'm going to go for a wee sneaky Colts win on this one, and then I think their next two games, I think they beat Jacksonville and then beat Tennessee and bounce back. before their divisional game against the Bears. So I'm going to go for a wee sneaky Colts win on this one.
I think we could be seeing the Vikings up to 9-2. Honestly, with those 4 games to play, I think if Vikings can give Darnold time before throwing and give them space, and also I think as well, and I know obviously Flacco, this isn't his first time playing this season for the Colts, and they'll be ready, but he's so different to Anthony Richardson. They are such different quarterbacks, and I just think you can't have 2 quarterbacks, one starting, one backup. However, you can't have them that different and have true success if they're going to have a lot like even game time. Do you know what I mean? It's different if you get a backup QB who has a Joe Flacco who doesn't play for the whole season or comes in when games are won. But if you're relying on both of them, they are so different. I can't see. Maybe the Colts do get something, but I don't think it's going to do much for the rest of the season. I think, sadly, they had their chance early in the season and they've kind of blown it to get the wins in the bag. I just think that this is going to mean a lot to the Vikings, and as you've said last couple of games, home comforts.
No, again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings absolutely blow the Colts out in this one. For me, it is the Darisaw injury that I've got the concern about, and that's really where I see Minnesota's issues coming from. I just, again, thinking back to that Rams game, that's really where the momentum swung for me. So again, we bit of a difference in that one. I think we've agreed on 3 and we've had differences in 2, so that's not too bad.
And then we're going to agree on the next one, I'm sure as well.
I definitely think I think this is going to be. This could have been the one when we could have nailed on the mask for the difference right away.
I don't think so.
we're going to finish off. So we've got Monday night football. So a late night for the 2 of us on Monday night. We've got Tampa Bay travelling to Geha Field at Arrowhead Stadium to visit the Chiefs, and we've got the 4-4 Tampa Bay Bucks, 2-1 away from home against the 7-0. Yes, that's right, 7-0 only undefeated team in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs. We have won our 3 home games thus far, and it hasn't been pretty, but we have still picked up the W. This is the biggest talking point, surely, for you guys, Ross, is the injury report. I don't know where else we can go with it from a Tampa side, so I'm going to let you take it away.
Dreadful, just truly dreadful. Winfield Jr. is questionable. We've seen that early in the season. I assume it's precautionary. I'm hoping it's not anything too much more. Bucky Irvin's on it, Sterling Shepard's on it, Tyke Smith, Levante David, Edmonds is out, Godwin's out. There'll be others that I've not mentioned, but it's not looking good. It's going to be a very sad Monday night. I'm not happy. I think most of them will play snaps. I can highly see it. I think Bucky will definitely, and I think Winfield Jr. will be fine. I think Sterling Shepard as well will be fine. I can see them all being on, but I don't think they're going to get the full time they need in the full games. The problem is though, I think, and I look at it and I use it 8.5 points favourites for the game. You've not had that offense all season. I don't see where. I understand you're 7-0. I do not see where they're pulling that you are 8.5 point favourites. It has to be the injuries, because at the end of the day, we have been scoring that, and a team can't keep scoring like that and losing and putting yards up. I think we had 460 odd against scrimmage yards against Atlanta. I think the Saints when we played the Saints, we had run about 500 or so, or maybe more. I think it's maybe a bit close to 600. I just look at that and I go, there's something. I think it's classic Monday Night Football. That could be a real. And the Chiefs and the referees are beaten.
It wouldn't be a Chiefs game without us talking about the refs, to be honest. So I'll be interested to see what team is officiating that game. Listen, I'll always have a soft spot for Levante David. I do think he's one of the league's underrated linebackers. Former Nebraska Cornhusker, which is my college team. Loved watching the guy when he played for the Cornhuskers. So I will always have a soft spot for Levante David. So he's one of these guys as much as the Super Bowl loss to the Bucks really hurt me. I was delighted for that guy. Not so delighted for the likes of Gronk and Brady. They've got their Super Bowls. Guys like Lavonte David.
So is Mahomes now anyway, so it's fine. So is Mahomes and Kelsey. Everything's worked out for the best, isn't
it? So, but nah, as I say, it's again, I think your running backs are probably ones that have surprised me this year. Bucky Irvin was highly touted last year, I think.
Unbelievable. Getting him at 26 in the draft. 26. Yeah. Just unbelievable from Jason and the team.
He is... So he was the one picked this year. Who was the one he's picked last year?
Was it not Rashad? Oh no, Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker got 2 touchdowns against the Saints, and he's running back 3.
Right.
So White's 1, Bucky's 2, and Sean Tucker's 3. I like Sean Tucker a lot, and I think he could be utilised. I think Rashad's very good at receiving the ball. Bucky can receive or on a screen pass, make the cut and pick up yards. We threw, I think we had 72 offensive attempts against the Falcons. With Baker threw the ball like 15 times. Like, we are going to rush it. We are going to try and put that rush defense that the Chiefs have to the test. And if it isn't working, we will throw it, but I don't think it's going to be conventional. I think we're going to see K. Doughton. Again, I'm hoping. I'm no K. Doughton's biggest fan. I think tight ends are our weakest offensive position. It has been for a couple of seasons since kind of Gronk went. And it's definitely someone I'd like to see improve. But I think yous have just signed someone as well to partner Chris Jones. Uche?
Yeah, Josh Uche from the Patriots who traded for him this week. So that was kind of getting into the start of the week. That was kind of my concern. Mike Dana has showed up on the injury report at the start of the week. I think that's why we've traded for Josh Uche, because Mike Dana has been very, very good for us the last few seasons. Stepped up in big moments in games. So Josh Uche had a good year last year. It
was all right, but it's 2022 was his very good year, wasn't it?
Aye, 2022 got a new contract with the Patriots. I think they kind of signed him to a prove-it deal last year.
Mm-hmm.
We signed him again this year. Hasn't really worked out for him. But again, I think he's going to be more of a rotational piece for us. So, yeah, as I say, I think it is going to be the injuries on this front that's going to cost the Bucks. But I think our Russian defense against your Russian offense, I think it's going to be a good matchup. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Tight ends.
Is Pacheco back potentially? Because it says he's on injury reserve, but it's 4th of November.
So I think his window can be opened in the 4th of November. So he's not back this week, so it'll still be Kareem Hunt for us this week.
And then Juju's questionable as well.
Yeah. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if D-Hop gets more involved this week.
I think he will. I can see it. Right.
What we think?
I'm going to say 31 to 23 for the Bucks.
For the Bucks, Laser Mayfield giving you a show.
Shake and bake, baby.
So I'm obviously going to go for the Chiefs win. I just think the injuries. I would have loved to have seen this a fully fit Bucks against a fully fit, especially how Baker's been playing. Fully fit Bucks against a fully fit Chiefs. Would have loved to have seen this. I just think the injuries are going to be too much for you to overcome. I think our defense has been elite as it has been all season, and Spags has really got the boys humming. So I think we're going to keep you boys pretty quiet. Lean on Kareem Hunt as we have been, and just run out that win. Not going to need Mahomes and Kelsey. Unfortunately for me as a Kelsey fantasy owner, I'd love to see him have another monster week, but I'm going for the Chiefs. So that brings us to a close on our games, Ross. So I would like to say thank you for joining me on the Friday night, and I really appreciate it, man.
No, not a problem. That's fine. I appreciate it. It was a busy week and kind of been a busy few weeks with some personal stuff in terms of dentists and birthdays and other work. So I'm glad we could have filmed it. We could have done this at least tonight, and I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
So I know it's been an absolute pleasure talking ball with you, man. And thanks to everybody that was watching along, and thanks for everybody listening on the podcast, wherever you get them. Give us a like, follow, subscribe on all of your usual socials, and we will catch you with the review crew next week.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.